Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning to you.
How are you?
I love it when these softwares throw little glitches at you at the last minute.
What happened?
Well, I went into, first of all, I went into the wrong room, I must confess. And then the next thing I realised I'd done that because our room had expired. It'll only let you do 3 months in advance. And obviously we've got to the end of our 3 months.
So later you'll send me a new link I can put in my diary for the next 3 months, will you?
No, the link will be the same. I'll just edit this one to say it's 10 o'clock rather than 11 o'clock.
Right. Okay, Roger. It's a funny link, actually. It begins with U2 or something.
I know. They've upgraded a lot of stuff because of the Zoom bombing issues that were going on.
Okay.
And I experienced one of those. Did I tell you I did my first call for Thomas
Yes, you
Power?
did. Yeah. You did. And it said, show us your tits, Nicola. Now, tell me about your week, Nicola.
Well, it's been largely dominated by Phoebe's bed and Phoebe's birthday. Phoebe ordered a bed, and that she's very brave. She didn't have any clue about how she was going to get rid of the old bed in lockdown, or indeed how she was going to assemble the new bed, because it had to be assembled. So it arrived in about 10 big packets of heavy wood, and luckily Nelson was there to help her, because of course the chap just deposited them on the street and then left. And then, Nelson was like, he carried them all up, bless him. And then she slept with these bits of wood around for a while, and then a couple of days, and then she went to borrow a screwdriver from Auntie Heather, an automatic, what's it called, electric screwdriver.
Yes.
And she spent the next, got to be 48 hours assembling this bed, and it had this complicated arrangement where you can lift up the end of it, and it's got a lot of storage space.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, not good for long fingernails, she discovered, so they had to go. But also the other thing was it felt like it was locked, so we spent quite a bit of time trying to puzzle out whether she put it on upside down or not. But it turns out that it's a cunning hydraulic arrangement whereby the weight of the mattress makes it very easy to lift up and down, but until you put the mattress on it, it won't budge.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so it needs the balance to work.
Yeah, and it had training videos and written instructions, but neither of those mentioned this fact. So they finally just put the mattress on and it worked beautifully, but it took a while. And then the birthday, which was a funny old thing because of lockdown. Normally she would have been partying for at least 3 days with all her mates.
Which day was her birthday?
It was Sunday.
Okay.
She was 25, and we're going to talk a bit more about that later.
We are.
But it was a nice day of presents arriving at the doorstep, phones being rung, people going down to say, hello from the other side of the street. And it was really quite nice. Did I cook breakfast? I can't remember. Someone cooked breakfast. No, Nelson did breakfast. I had made her a video compiling all her friends and family sending her video birthday messages. And some of them were very entertaining indeed. And I did what she did for people, which is put them all together, put music behind them, put little annotations on them if they required it. And then we sent it to her first thing on Sunday morning, and she watched it. And she just put all her makeup on to do a social media video of her own. And she said, I was trying so hard not to cry that I ended up sweating rather badly. So she cries out of her armpits, my daughter.
Lovely.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
TMI, Nicola.
Yeah, exactly. And then what happened? We had cake. Nelson made a lemon drizzle cake. It was entertainingly thin. So he said, come and see the cake. And he was very proud of it. And I went in and I said, well, where's the rest of it then?
Tell him he won't get a Hollywood handshake for a flat, thin cake.
No, exactly. What's a Hollywood handshake?
You watch Bake Off, don't you?
No, I don't. Oh, Hollywood. Yeah, I do know.
Yeah.
I do know what you mean, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen him dispense those, and people love.
Well, they're much desired, and people get very excited when they get a handshake.
Oh, sure, yeah. And then I can't remember what else happened. Oh, we must have had a lovely dinner. Oh, that was it. Irving dropped off the pasta maker. I probably told you this in private.
Yes, you said that Joe, you were going to swap it for something. Bread, was it?
Swap it for bread, but in the end, he just brought it down. And he was on the other side of the pavement. It was a drizzly old day. It wasn't very nice. And he stood on the other side of the pavement, and I went in after a little while because it was cold and wet, and the kids. And then they realised that the bar underneath us, the Real Ale bar, was doing takeaway. So they ordered half a pint each of, I don't know, some sort of beer. And they were just standing chatting. And next thing you know, a policeman arrives and asks them to come and go inside, please.
Yeah.
And my Phoebe said, it's my birthday. I haven't seen my dad for weeks now. We're just having a short half. And he said, I'm sorry, you've been reported.
So you've been dobbed in by your neighbours?
Yes, exactly.
Do not start me on this, Nicola. We're going to have a lovely, light-hearted little show today. I will rein it in, okay?
Yes, okay. Yes, lovely listener.
Yeah.
We've decided it's going to be a light-hearted show.
It is. We're going to talk about cakes and pasta makers today, not what's going on in the world. Yep.
Anyway, the pasta making itself went well, fueled by quite a lot of cocktails and wine.
Yeah.
And then we made delicious fillings. We had ricotta, spinach, and mushroom with truffle oil, and then I made a salmon pasta and salmon and prawn one with cream. And they weren't too wet, but the minute we put them into their ravioli parcels, they started to eat through the pasta underneath. And so when it came time to put them, there were only about 10 of them, we were doing giant parcels.
Yes. And
when it came time to lift them lightly into their flat pan of boiling water to give them the required 2 minutes.
Yes.
Some of them had fallen apart.
So are we saying the pasta was slightly too thin to wear the bulk of the...
Possibly.
I think, if it's a smaller one, it probably can be thinner, and a bigger one with a bigger filling might need a thicker. I don't know. I mean, all I know about this I learned from MasterChef.
Well, I'll tell you something. There isn't time to get the ravioli parcels filled, trimmed, and into the mortar before they start.
Yeah, it just gives you more respect for those people on MasterChef,
exactly.
doesn't it?
And the other thing was, I was convinced the pasta maker was a left-handed one, so I'm berating Irving for sending us a left-handed pasta maker. And then I looked at, he said, have you Googled it? And I looked. It's
probably just a knob, is it? One knob you switch?
No, it isn't at all. It's because people are supposed to do it one-handed, and they figure most people are right-handed. So it works feeding the pasta in on the right hand and turn it, and then once you've fed it in, you then start turning the handle, and it comes out on the left hand. But there were 3 of us trying to do it and support the pasta, because I thought the pasta shouldn't stretch. Indeed, most pastry shouldn't be stretched, but pasta apparently is different.
This is more than I need to know about making my own pasta. Do you know that?
Well, put it this way: the kids said that the reward to effort ratio, once we cobbled together the bits that are broken, cooked it all and then put it on the table with salad and bread and everything, was about 90 to 10.
So not worth it, right?
Well, I'm going to have another go, because the pasta was lovely. I think we were just being too ambitious with the old filled parcels. But I have tweeted James Martin to ask him what went wrong.
Well, you could perhaps make it into sort of ribbons or spag, and you don't fill it. Just have it, like pasta.
Yes, because I do like fresh pasta.
Yeah, I bet that would be delicious. Yeah.
So I've squirreled the parts away. The children were all for sending them straight back to their mother. Yeah. So it was a lovely day. We had a really lovely day, and Phoebe said it was odd and different, but she really enjoyed it. So it was great.
So 2 responses. My friend Lorna, who's a chef and also owns a house in Italy and loves everything Italian. Yes. She makes her own ragu sauce as they make it in Italy, and it takes, I don't know, a week and a half or something to make.
Yeah.
It's a real do, but it is the most delicious thing I've ever had, and it would go lovely with your homemade pasta.
Yes.
So you'll need to learn to make proper ragu sauce as well. And also, on the topic of the bed, when I buy a bed, I buy the 2 extra services, which is they put it together in my house and they take away the old one.
Well, they won't come and do that right now. So
during lockdown, you mean? Yeah.
So we've now obviously got a mattress in the hallway.
Yes.
Phoebe's home improvements generally result in a lowering of standards for the rest of us for a while.
Interestingly, one of the managing agents of one of my buy-to-let flats sent a photograph yesterday that my new tenant had thrown the mattress out of the window into the front garden.
Good God, what are people like?
Well, don't start me.
No, and finally on this week, it's been quite a lively week. We realised that May the 4th was Star Wars Day.
Yes, indeed. May the 4th be with you. Absolutely, exactly. I love that joke. Yeah,
even I got that. And I'd never seen them. I'd only seen snippets when the kids were watching.
I've not seen them either. No.
But Mandalorian, my God, Mandalorian, the baby Yoda is the most divine, cute creature you've ever come across. We watched 8 episodes of Mandalorian, which made me then want to watch Star Wars. So on May the 4th, which was the day after Phoebe's birthday, I took the day off and we watched 4 episodes of Star Wars back to back, from lunchtime till gone midnight. And then we're on to number 5 now. And there's apparently 6, 8, 9. There's 9 main episodes of Star Wars. So there's 2 spin-offs. So we're going to watch all of them over the next couple of weeks.
That's quite a heroic thing, isn't it?
I know. Well, I've never done that. I've never done a binge watch like this for films. So, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it because I made Phoebe watch it in the way she wanted to watch it in order, so it would be, she's very linear like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to watch them in the order
the way they came out. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed. Do 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 do. Yeah, right.
The music
actually, that might be Superman. Actually, what's the music for Star Wars?
I'm not even going to.
Anyway, it's heroic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's heroic. And it gives you tingles to be, because it is so familiar.
It's the end. Not that I've seen any of these films at all. None. No. But towards the end, the female leads start to be important.
And Harrison Ford gets better looking as he goes along. He's quite annoying in the first one. But
I think he's a bit mad actually now in real life, but never mind.
Bless him. So what about your week then?
Oh, I've had a fantastic week actually. The sun came back.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly.
And I got up on Monday morning, and you know how sometimes you, apropos of nothing at all, you feel inspired to do something. I fixed 2 things that were wrong. One was the tumble dryer. So I YouTubed it to find out what to do when this particular light came on and thought, I wondered what that drawer was for. So I managed to get the tumble dryer working after I'd already fixed. In the cottage where I live, there's a lot of windows and none of them have any coverings at all except the one that goes across the front, which is a full range of sort of French windows. And clearly they've brought back from their office some unpleasantly blue-coloured vertical blinds.
Oh, I hate those.
They're horrible. Yeah. But also, I can only draw one side because the one on the left-hand side is a bit broken. So what I do with the one on the left-hand side is pull it so that it's slatted, not shut. And the one on the right-hand side, I'd broken a thing off. Well, and also the wires had got all tangled up. Well, normally I'd call a man to sort this out for me, but I managed to fix that myself. And I was sort of flushed with success for this. For a bright woman, I'm spectacularly useless at this sort of practical thing. But all 3 fixes worked and held. So I felt so good about myself that I went on to do my company accounts, which I already knew was due at the end of the month. And I told my accountant ages ago, I don't even want to think about this until the 1st of May. And on May the 4th, which was Monday, he sent me a reminder, but I didn't need it because I'd already written on every day in my Outlook calendar for May, accounts due today, I would put all like 31 reminders until the day came when I felt like doing it. And turned out to be May the 4th. So I went up the big house as I'd promised and set myself up a desk at the kitchen table and did my accounts, and I'm going to do my tax return next, which is mainly from my properties. But the secret of my success, apart from loving accounts, is of course that I do it every month. So I only have to summarize the 12 months to send to my accountants at the end of the year and for them to present it to HMRC for me. But when you've done these jobs, you just feel like superhuman.
Yeah.
So actually that sort of coloured my whole week. There's been this high vibe from achievement.
Yes, it is amazing what you can fix after Googling on YouTube, isn't it? I mean,
YouTube is the answer to everything. It's the answer to everything. It's my when I was watching Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan yesterday, they both agreed that television will die because YouTube, no adverts. Well, not many. No, I don't have adverts. For some unknown reason, I don't have adverts. But they don't need to do that soundbitey thing. They don't, and the professor, Jordan Peterson, was saying, as a university professor, YouTube is a better place for my education because people who come to learn there. They haven't just gone to university to get away from home and have lots of sex.
Yes, quite. He's very funny in a dry kind of way.
Yes, he's very dry. Yeah.
And I get lots of ads. And I get lots of ads, specifically when I'm watching long things like that. I get ads about every 15 minutes. I
don't get it every 15 minutes, but I certainly got it, I think, at least once when I was watching. But I get a thing that says skip ads, and I watch it on the telly, so I just skip the ads with one click.
Yes, but it's still annoying, though. Anyway,
I don't find that annoying. Not nearly as annoying. I know you pay not to have them on Channel 4 and ITV.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I can't bear it.
No.
Just going back to my week for a second, I forgot to tell you the big announcement, the big thing, which was after witnessing Phoebe's success with the bed, Heather gave her the most popular birthday present, which was an electric screwdriver.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we borrowed one from Heather, but then Heather
gave her one.
Bought one for her birthday.
Yeah.
So she's very happy with that.
That's probably something everyone should have, isn't it?
She feels very grown up now, apparently.
Well, I mean, I worry what it means, the implications for the rest of lockdown and her DIY program. You know, you could be just beware what Heather has opened there.
It could be inconvenienced on an ongoing basis.
It could. Tell me what's fueled your fire.
I have just received something I ordered a while ago, which was Russell Brunson's Traffic Secrets book, and I've got it on my Kindle. If you go and get a free copy via nicolacairncross.com/resources, you can download, when you order the free copy to be sent to you, you can download the ebook version straight away, so it's probably worth doing it that way. But I wanted it. I thought I was going to get it quicker if I ordered it on Amazon, but of course I didn't. I just had to wait for it. But it's I'm intrigued to see how he's going to do it, because he wants it to be an evergreen traffic book rather than something that's, he says, you won't find any Facebook tactics or Google tactics or anything like that in here. This is all about how to get eyeballs on your offers old school, because he learned through the direct marketing people, you know, the original people who came before the internet. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I'm looking forward to getting inspired by it, because I've been feeling very uninspired generally the last week. And so, yeah, that's what's hopefully will be fueling my fire over the next week. Okay. And yourself?
Saying no. I received a very nice request from an existing client who asked me if I was still doing free calls. And the answer is yes, but she very honestly said her friend was not in a position to become a paying client. And since there is a correlation between the two, and given our current lockdown focus, which is on me, it was easy for me to say no on this occasion. I still felt pleased with myself for about half an hour after prioritizing my own needs. And the client and I, the introducing the referring woman and I, had a call that afternoon. And before, during, and after, I felt a need to explain, but didn't. And another day, it could just as easily have gone the other way, and I would have been fine with that too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
It was just, she gave me the choice, and she told me this woman wasn't ever going to be, well, not in the foreseeable future, going to become a paying client. And I thought, this doesn't meet my needs.
Yeah. Sometimes I would have thought, well, perhaps they would become a referrer, but that would entirely depend on how I felt about doing the call in the first place.
It could have gone the other way. Yeah. But actually, my client had already given her some good advice, and the woman had already lost, thanks to COVID, her existing career. So she had nothing to lose by going for this new career, which is what she wanted to talk to me about. So I said, look, get her to follow your advice and go for it. And that was it, really.
Yeah. Very good. So, focus of the week then.
Yes, I've written here, well, let's just say to the audience that I said to you earlier in the week, I think after last Friday's, that they haven't heard yet at the real time of recording this one, after last Friday's, which was a bit of a heavy do, I thought we should discuss something light.
Yes. and I've been feeling very wistful and pensive this week. In fact, you nailed it when you said wistful.
Yeah.
Because I've been, obviously Phoebe's birthday, children's birthdays brings up memories. I mean, you know, you can remember, I'm sure when you can remember when your nieces and nephews were born. And
I can, yes.
Absolutely. It's like it was yesterday. It's funny memory.
It is, yes.
So when I was thinking about not only the day, which is indelibly etched on my memory, largely for her being asleep most of the day and me having to poke her occasionally. But it made me think about when I was 25, and I had Phoebe when I was 33, and I'd met Irving when I was 26. So I was a year away from meeting the father of my children, and I was in London, and I was hanging out with a gang of friends from Worthing and Brighton, because we all moved to London roughly the same time. I felt old. I felt...
Do you mean old, or do you mean grown up?
No, I felt like I was grown up, and I felt like I was getting left behind, because all of this was that people were starting to pair up. And I definitely wanted a partner. I hadn't had one really since I was about 18 or 19, a long-term partner, and I wanted one. God knows why, looking back. But I remember that when I was 25, a year away from meeting Irving, that was when I started doing Time Out Lonely Hearts, because I wanted to meet someone, and I wanted to meet someone who was equally as interested in a partnership as I was. Actually, I barked up the wrong tree with Irving. He completely wasn't. He was interested in playing the field, but, you live and learn. But what it did make me start thinking was how innocent, ignorant, completely clueless I was at 25, thinking I was all grown up. And I was also comparing it to how Phoebe is, and she's very young for 25. She's more like 19, 20, I suppose. But she is very clued up. She's very smart about money, largely because I've drummed it into her since an early age. She actually puts it into practice. She's always got some money squirreled away. And she's also, very practical. She's very down, I suppose more like her father. She's very practical in terms of, if I want something, I want it. She's very good at manifesting. If she focuses entirely on something, she will get it. And the rest of us better get out of the way. And I was just thinking that what kind of things would I have wanted? What simple, profound, basic things would I have loved to share with my 25-year-old self?
Well, I should warn you here that I've got 3 plus 2 bonuses.
Yeah, I have 2.
Are you going to do all of yours and all of mine, or one?
Yeah, let's swap. Let's do swap.
All right, hit me with your first one.
Well, it's equally. I've read a lot of wealth creation books, as you know, and the one that pops into my head all the time now is the one that I think it's. I can't remember the author, but it's called "The Trick to Money is Having Some." And that is so totally not how I've run my finances. I've always invested up to the hill. I've always spent up to the hill. I've always never got the hang of saving, mainly because I didn't really see the point of saving when you could have the thing now. And one of my bonus ones talks a bit more about why this is so important. But apart from anything else, the fact of having some money squirreled away makes you feel so different, and it makes you make different choices in life, better choices, I think is such a powerful, important thing that everyone should know. But it's so hard to convey to people, isn't it? So they take notice of it.
Yes. I think it's quite a lot of it's to do with personality type as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Were you a saver when you were 25?
No.
Good. It makes me feel a bit better.
I can do earning very well, and I can do investing very well. I'm not really interested in saving, except as a means to get together a sum of money to invest it in something.
Well, see, that was the bit I was missing at 25.
Yeah.
Not saving to have. Well, Daniel Priestley would disagree, actually. When I interviewed him for the Money Gym, he said, you are saving to have a bit of money.
Yes, I agree with him. Yeah.
It changes your perception.
It does. And you've said that already, which is if you've got money in your deposit account, you feel safe or different or something.
Yes, it makes you make better choices, especially at 25, I think. What's your first one then?
Well, I've got preamble first. You had preamble. I also have preamble. So in 1980, I was 25. I was living in London. Ken Livingstone had lent me £9,000 to buy my first home a few years earlier, and it was an 100% mortgage. I owned my first car, a white Mini Metro.
Oh, no.
I'd been back living in London for 3 years after a few years in and around Oxford, and I was 3 years into freelancing at a firm of accountants where I began in 1977. 1977 was the year that Elvis died, and I went on a holiday to Saint-Tropez on a coach, staying in a caravan.
Oh, my God.
My notes say, done neither again. And I was already doing bookkeeping rather than the secretarial work I'd been hired for at this firm of accountants. And perhaps I'd even started at night school in Tooting, where all my compadres learning about accounting at night school wore turbans, which was cool. My brother was in Hong Kong, and I'd been out to visit him for Christmas at least once. I'd lost a lot of weight on the Scarsdale diet, and this is an absolute fact here, this put me at risk of serious sexual opportunism by the only young colleague in the tiny firm of accountants where I worked in Dulwich Village. Fortunately, I think that man's dead now. What would I tell myself? I would tell myself your life will never be boring, but neither will it be plain sailing. And my first one is keep that flat forever. It cost £9,000 in the very late 70s. The last sale recorded on Zoopla was in 2007 for £202,000, and Zoopla indicates today it's worth somewhere between 366,000 and 448,000. Don't leverage your first one. It will never again be so cheap to have a roof over your head for free forever. And I would still be happy to live there today, Herne Hill, London SE24, next to Brockwell Park, which has a Lido. It would rent well if I didn't want to live there. The peace of mind of owning that home outright is unmatched, says the house sitter. Also, I bought the next one for just 21,000, and knowing what I know now, I could have found other ways to pay for that without leveraging and selling the first one, without selling the first one, perhaps by, I don't know, whatever. And so number 2 could have been regarded as my first step on the property ladder rather than number 1. And I've become good friends on Facebook with Anita Davenport, who I met at the Acacia Money Gym property weekend. And she said aloud, she wished she'd never sold any property she'd ever bought. And Anita, if you're listening, and I know you do listen, yeah.
Absolutely. The thing I first learned about Jill Fielding was she'd left a trail of properties behind her, and she still owned. She just found
it wouldn't work so well now because we can't get those self-cert mortgages, but it would have worked for 30 years of my life.
And 30 years would have been quite enough to set you up.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Yes. Yeah. I mean, as it happens, I've ended up with 4 rental flats, and that's the same difference. But I wish I still owned that one in Herne Hill.
Yeah. I mean, just for the listener, we did determine that regret is a pointless emotion, and these are not regrets.
No, we're going wistful. We're being wistful.
Wistful, whimsical, and trying to work out if we were going to nutshell our experience to pass on to a 25-year-old. How would we?
Well, I also think, despite what I'm about to tell you today, I'm still all right with everything, all the choices I've made and everything. It's just that the learnings, we went looking for learnings, didn't we, about what we wished we'd known when we were 25.
Yeah. So my number 2 is don't fight what is the Stoic way, but do work on what you can control. I've spent my whole life trying to fit square pegs into round holes. And I've spent my whole life trying to be different, do things differently, think of new ways, think of different ways. Instead of working on what is under my control, I railed against what was happening to me without realizing I had the ability to change parts of that and not to try and change the things that I think that's why I've never had a life of peace, and my life is much more peaceful now. I look at what is, I decide what's under my control, and I try and change the things that I can control and nothing else.
That's the serenity prayer, isn't it?
It is pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And especially the bit about not being able to change other people. Wish I'd learnt that earlier. Yes.
You haven't always learned that now. I have to remind you that about the sisters quite often.
Oh, yes. That's really true. Luckily, they don't listen to this. What about you then?
Don't sit down for a living. So initially I didn't. I used to get out and about in that mini metro, meeting clients, collecting their books, working at their offices and going out socially a lot more. But once computers arrived and then the internet, or whatever order that happened in, the need to move lessened almost to zero. And that's almost crippled me, literally, my knees. I don't know what career I could have chosen which would have taken less of a toll on my body. So many of my friends, for example, are chefs. And that's taken a toll on their bodies too, standing up all day, the physical nature of their work, the one-sidedness of chopping with your right hand, RSI. What it does is it gives them a whole lopsidedness and a overly developed musculature on the right-hand side of their body. What do we call that? I don't know, whatever it is. It's the side you use most, your dominant side. That's it. Yeah. And so Lorna's had 2 knee operations, and they're crippled too in a different way. So I wondered, what would be a physically balanced thing to do for a living? And the only thing I could think of was yoga teacher, perhaps. But of course, every yoga teacher I know is poor as a church mouse. Well,
you could combine it with number 1, and you could have been an estate agent. Lots of zooming about, sitting down, standing up.
It's a little bit beneath me, Nicola. Oh. Well, because it's very salesy and sociable. You don't need a brain to do that. In fact, quite the opposite. The loveliest. I had a client who was an estate agent in Battersea, and they're still there. And I loved the owner, and he certainly didn't do anything except own and run and manage the business. And some of the lovely boys that ran around in little cars showing people, you'd buy anything from some of them because they were so handsome and so, they didn't sell. They just showed you the flat. You loved them and you wanted to help them, and so you would have bought anything from them, Yeah. And it's actually the male equivalent of being one of those girls that used to sell cars at the motor show in the 60s, with a sash across her swimming costume. It's I'm generalising here, listeners. I mean, if you're an estate agent, good on you. And then also in this current market, I feel for you, because that estate agency is, God knows what's happened to them.
Yeah, I think there'll always be a place for top-end estate agents, because rich people always want to be shown around places.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I'm looking to imminently rent or buy something, and so I'm on Rightmove a lot, and they're doing this online viewing thing. And I think we're quite good these days. Well, I think these days we're quite good at buying things online. Whether I'd buy a house online or how much I'd spend online, I don't know. But as a person who's moved house often in the last 3 years, I think I can tell from pictures whether I'm going to like it or not. Now, there's a point there, which is selling things. It goes to the estate agent there. It goes to the fine art. All you're really doing is helping the person make up their mind.
Yes, and you're it's a bit like selling cars as well, isn't it? You're finding out what their perceived problem is, and then presenting them with the best fit opportunity.
Well, I think both with a house and a car, people know, they fall in love, and then you just help them justify the terrifyingly large price ticket, I think.
That's right. They buy with emotion, and you have to walk them through the rest of it.
What's your third one?
Oh, no, I'm interested in this Rightmove and being able to virtually view places now. Is that quite widespread?
Well, there's a new orange slash that says online viewing. Why don't you go and have a look later? Not on all properties, but on some of them.
That's hours gone.
Yes, quite.
That's nearly as obsessive as my survival videos I've been watching.
I mean, they always had videos, but they were just usually photographs mashed together so that it looked like it moved. I haven't actually watched one of these yet, but I think probably the estate agent goes around with this. I don't know, whatever. There's ways of doing it, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. Especially nowadays, their mobile phones and trying to stop their hands from shaking.
Yeah.
And not breathing too deeply, which is what I do when I'm making videos like that. Have to take off the breathing soundtrack and put some music on.
Yeah.
Number 3, I wish I'd known the secret of true happiness is gratitude, because we talk about this a lot on here, and it's also living in the moment. Gratitude and living in the moment. Being able to say to yourself, am I all right now? Do I know where my next dinner's coming from? Do I know where I'm going to sleep tonight? Do I know where my next shower's coming from? And if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, you're all right, aren't you?
Well, that's a spiritual practice, which is gratitude and meditation.
Yes, I love meditation.
Look at you, Nicola Klenkos, you've got a spiritual practice. I mean, honestly, it's only about, well, when did Steve die?
March 2016.
4 years ago. It's only about 4 years ago that I could have said that about you, because that's pretty much when you started, or what led you eventually to discover the benefits of both of those, wasn't it?
I needed practical tools to help me make me.
Yes. Yeah, well, good on you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very useful when I can't get to sleep, I can tell you.
Yes.
A few moments of focusing on my breathing and I'm off.
Yes.
Unless I wake myself up again with the snoring. Right. What's your third one?
Don't date a man, or at least don't waste money on any men who cannot keep up with me pound for pound. So I pay my own way, and I always have, and I always will. However, the attraction of opposites has mainly meant work-shy rogues, my father's expression.
I like that.
Starving artisans and unemployed creatives who couldn't keep up with me. And not all men either. When a friend couldn't, I would pay for her. I'm generous to a fault. I would perhaps have better boundaries around that. I think it speaks to my historic need for control, particularly when money is concerned. And for so long, I found it so easy to make it that they seemed not to be able to, that they wanted some of that to rub off on them. So I would spend money differently when it came to my other halves.
Yes, I agree with you. I always attracted the starving creatives and all the artisans, but I have on occasion been the poor friend. I've had several friends who are wealthier than me, but there's only one who regularly paid for things, and that was because she wanted a companion to go out. So I was quite happy to oblige.
Yes.
But I've always wanted to be someone who paid my way, and now I am. Phoebe's always got money stashed away, and her friends know that. So, but she is very relentless about pursuing debts from the weekend. She usually gets them paid back within a week.
So something I learned from my brother when he was in those first jobs in Hong Kong is that they were all bankers, and when they'd been out for a night together and somebody had paid the bill, they would just debit and credit each other's bank accounts the next day with their shares.
Very good.
I thought that was really funny. Now, tell me what your bonus number 1 is.
Well, no, I've realised I rolled my bonus number 1 into that last one, so I only have 1 bonus now.
Right, shall I give you my first bonus?
Go on then.
Don't assume others have the same moral and other values. Wait, watch, trust your gut, and let people reveal their agenda before giving them trust, respect, and the keys to the castle.
Very nice. Beautifully summed up there.
Thank you, darling. Now, what's yours?
Mine is The Miracle of Compounding.
Oh, yes.
I just didn't understand it till I was not even 38. It took more years after that.
I think one needs to have a real sense of seeing it work, don't you?
Yes, and it's the fact that the growth is on the capital sum plus the last growth, and the fact that it multiplies so dramatically. And how I remind myself now is just I go 1,000 with my thumb up, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000.
You've run out of thumbs. You've run out of thumbs now.
No, when I get to 10, I'm up to 1 million.
Yeah.
And that's just astonishing to me.
Yes,
but that's how I remind myself of the power of compounding. And
I think that goes back to your point about saving, because it does take the entirety of one's adult life for that to work if you're starting small.
And I used to do these. I remember I don't know how I did them, because I must have been manual spreadsheets with pen and paper.
I know.
And I used to work out 2 to 3%, 5% interest a year on my savings, and I used to despair. If I'd known that you could do that in a week or a month or a year, with property was obviously the turnkey thing that opened my eyes to this. But now it's, with trading, if you can make 3% a week or 3% a month, it really does mount up if you do a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So, and along with the miracle of compounding is how to make money without needing to work for the money. If you've got a pot of money, you can grow it if you know how to. And it's just a miracle. It is a miracle. And I wish I'd known about it before. And you?
My last one is don't cling to London. The UK countryside is absolutely beautiful and full of peace and quiet. I could easily have left London 10 years ago, not 3.
Yeah, you were very...
I love London. Still love it today. Love it today. But I had friends who lived in the countryside, and I could never see the beauty of it. I didn't have a coat. I didn't have wellies. I still don't. But, May, where we are today, is the most beautiful time of year for the British countryside. I worked that out a couple of years ago. And yesterday I went into town, and coming back, I turned a corner. Honestly, without a word of a lie, I explained this to Mary, and I said, I'm not exaggerating. It was so beautiful. I nearly passed out like an Edwardian lady whose corset was too tight. And it was like, I practically passed out in a faint swoon. And she said, no, I totally get it. Where she lives in Ireland, there's greenery for as far as you can see. When you come round a corner and your breath is taken away by the vista in front of you, which is just, actually it was enhanced yesterday by the fact that during lockdown, little man that cuts the hedges throughout the entirety of the UK, and we all know it's just one man. He hasn't been doing his job for the last 6 or 8 weeks, has he? So it's all grown in the hedgerows, and that just makes it even better as far as I'm concerned. Even though it's only cow parsley, I'm sort of crowded on all sides by vegetation. Looking out of the window now in my duck pond, I've got yellow irises, which was so beautiful. I had to take a picture and share them in my I Love My Life group this week. And I don't take pictures, Nicola.
No, you don't.
I can't quite believe how beautiful the British countryside is. And I've been in many, many counties, I think a dozen counties over the last 3 years, and they've all got their own particular qualities. But in May, get in the car and go out somewhere today, because you will see it is so beautiful out here.
Yeah. I used to, obviously I've lived in London, I've lived on the South Coast, but the South Coast is still pretty built up. And living in Greece was the closest I've ever come to living in the real countryside. Yeah. And that was stunning. I mean, this time of year in Greece is flowers, or so a profusion of different flowers, all under the olive groves, which are beautiful in themselves, I think.
Yes. I think the other thing as well, of course, in lockdown, is that nature is reminding us that it just goes on inexorably doing its thing. And that's another miracle.
We're so ephemeral, aren't we?
Yeah.
But the other thing that going to Greece was that when I came back to Shoreham, I actually appreciate the beauty of Shoreham more. I don't know whether that's because I'm just feeling better generally, or whether it's just because I've spent time in the beautiful. So now I see the beauty. I think perhaps before I was just seeing the bricks and the rubbiness and the ugly.
Yes, I do think appreciating the beauty of wherever you are is a fine thing.
Yeah, it is.
But I love the seaside very, very much, and the sea. And when I was in Somerset, I was next door to Dorset, which is the county that my mother was born in, and I know quite well. And I used to go down the coast road to see some friends who lived next door to my grandparents' farm, and also my cousin Jane, who lives locally. And as I was driving down this beautiful road, I used to think, seaside, country, seaside, country. And historically, without knowing the country as well as I now do, I would have always chosen the seaside. Now it would have to be the country, because it's just this staggering beauty all the time. Even in January, when I was on Leslie's farm and there were sheep there, and you'd think January in the UK would be absolutely bleak. It wasn't. It wasn't. It still had a majestic beauty in the kind of stripped trees.
It'd have to be the countryside near a beach, though.
Well, yes, I think it might have to be. Yes, I think the best of both worlds. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. Are we done on the...
We are done. We are done.
What we would teach our younger selves.
Yes. What we'd wish we known. What did I call this episode? Hang on a minute. Hang on. I've got it.
I think this has got to be worth a blog post.
I called it My Younger Self at 25.
Yeah, nice. I think I might write this up as a blog post.
Okay.
And share it into the group. That's word of the week then. What is yours?
Mine is chatelaine. Do you know what that means?
No.
A woman in charge of a large house, which is what I am at the moment. And later today, I'll have to do the laundry, the dustbins, the post, and watering the plants. There's also a fabulous K.D. Lang song called Miss Chatelaine, which I'll link to in the show notes.
Yes, so it's chatelaine.
Yes, Chatelaine, a woman in charge of a large house. I think must be something to do with chateaux in French.
Yeah, someone who ran the chateau.
Yes.
Housekeeper in England.
I'm running the chateau.
You're the housekeeper.
I'm a woman in charge, basically, Nicola. Okay.
Chatelaine is a much nicer word. Mine is easement.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Easement, which I'm not actually sure is even a real word. But I was excited to see that on Sunday.
It is, but I don't think it is. It is a real word, but I don't think it means what you think it means.
Right. Well, on Sunday, we're going to be given the details of the forthcoming easement of lockdown restrictions.
Oh, yes.
But I was shocked to see that they were spread out between now and October. I don't really think we need to drag it out that long.
Well, I don't know. I think we agreed last week, didn't we, that it has to be slow.
Yes, but that seems awfully long time. I mean, they're not going to be opening the restaurants and pubs till October.
Well, and they're not, and many people I know, their children aren't going back to school to September. What easements are happening next week?
I don't know, but we'll have to watch on Sunday to find out.
Oh, we have to wait till Sunday.
Yes, he's announcing them on Sunday. I probably won't watch it because I'm so exasperated with them all. I just get my news from Twitter nowadays, so that I can pick and choose. Project updates then.
Yeah, go.
Well, trading's going well. I'm getting to the point now where I've got more profitable trades than losses, and they're outweighing the other ones. So my little pot is growing slowly but steadily, and I feel confident that will continue, barring unexpected moves. But I've got a stop loss for that. The Money Gym book breakdown, because I'm trying to rewrite it and repackage it. I've got to tell you, the hardest thing I've ever done. It's so deadly dull to break down.
I know you don't like going back over your old material. We had the same thing when you recorded the audio version, if you remember.
Yes, it's so painful and dull and boring. I'm managing not to make myself do it at the moment.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, actually.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
You're going to think of the money, darling. You're going to think of the money and how useful it's going to be for your audience, okay?
The ironic thing was that back in the mists of time in 98, 99, it was written as a series of 100 emails. So it was in concepts, self-contained concepts then.
Haven't you still got those?
Well, that's a jolly good question. No.
I bet some of your former clients have.
Oh, if anyone's got the Financial Intelligence 101 emails out there saved in their time inboxes or anything, I would be so grateful.
I'd be amazed if you didn't have them, Nicola, somewhere on a computer.
I am a bit of a hoarder, and especially as I pay for storage, but I've looked everywhere and I can't find them. They were on the old Money Gym.
I remember I used to print them out and put them in a lever arch file, but I haven't got that file anymore. Because it would make my life so easy. Let's stop until we find that person. Appeal for it on Facebook.
Please. Yeah. The Financial Intelligence 101 emails, they were called.
Yeah.
So search your inbox.
FP 101.
Yeah, and if anyone printed them off. I would pay to have them scanned and sent to me.
You don't really want the printed version. You want the digital version, ideally.
Well, actually, I do want the printed version. I find it much easier to work if I'm working from something. I don't like swapping from screen to screen. I much prefer to have a.
Wasn't that just the book, really? The first book?
It was, but I don't have a copy of the first book.
Can't you get one from anywhere?
Possibly. Oh, possibly Amazon.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the editing, they made it more into a book and less into a step-by-step daily.
Did it follow the orders of... I think it followed... My memory is it followed the order of the FP 101.
I mean, I have got the book and it is still in pretty much the right format and the right order, but I have to go through it and break the concepts down.
Look, we know... I don't know, 100 people that went through the Money Gym, and I bet they've got the FP. I bet at least one person's got the FP 101. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. That's a good idea. Very good idea. Because that would make life so much easier.
And also, 101, great number.
Yeah, exactly. What about you? Any project upset?
No, certainly not, no. Who or what's impressed?
I haven't got anyone. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I prepped so well today, but there was a big blank space there, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So
okay. Well, mine is the Reverend Danny Jones of the North Lake Baptist Church, Gainesville, Georgia, who summarises the entirety of the COVID situation precisely as I see it in a concise 27 minutes with dates, chapter and verse. I will link to him in the show notes if that's okay by you. Otherwise, I will put it in the Facebook group if that's okay by you.
No, all of it's okay by me.
He is a vicar. Say again.
I said all of that's okay by me.
Great. If God is not your thing, and I know it's not Nicola's nor really mine, you can entirely ignore the religious Bible context, which he only quotes a few times in the 27 minutes and really isn't the point of his presentation. It's his attempt to answer the question, is the coronavirus the end of the world?
Yes. I've got to say, you had to rather...
I did. I had to talk you into it seriously, didn't I?
Yeah, and he does go a bit off-piste at the end, but it was a very good factual summary, and I shocked at some of the things he said.
Absolutely. And he did remind us that his degree was in sciences. He's impressed me. Also, but I don't really want to talk about him today, Jordan Peterson, but I'm talking about him in future episodes.
Jordan Peterson. Oh, okay. In that case, I'm going to tell you about a Joe Rogan episode I really enjoyed.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
A chap, two British chaps. I think, not sure. One's British. He talks about geology, and the other chap talks about astronomy. And they've been on Joe Rogan separately. They've been on Joe Rogan together. And one of the most recent Joe Rogan episodes had them on with a skeptic. He runs a magazine that specialises in being skeptical about science stuff.
So was there three of them? Was there the skeptic, the astrologer, and the other one?
Yes.
And Joe? And Joe. Can you find that episode and send it to me? Because then I can link to it in the show notes. Yeah.
I was particularly impressed by. I'm always impressed by Joe. He's a very deep thinking man, which is interesting as he's a mixed martial arts person. But he did a very good job of adjudicating.
Yes. Chairing.
Yeah, he did a very good job. He made sure everyone got the chance to say their, and he pulled people up when they were being a bit too woolly and spreading around. Too wide concepts. He wanted people to be very specific. I really enjoyed it. 3 hours.
For a listener that doesn't know Joe Rogan, and I didn't really, although you've mentioned him a couple of times before, he does have a podcast, but you can also watch it if you want on YouTube. And the really interesting thing about it is this thing I've been bemoaning for as long as I can remember, which is it's a chat show host. It's a long form conversation between two or more adults, which runs to 3 hours, and isn't dull. So, for instance, I saw him this week with Robert Downey Jr. I didn't make it to the end because Robert Downey Jr. is interesting up to a point, but not for 3 hours. But I love the format of two people in conversation, and like we used to have on Parkinson when I was growing up, which we don't have anymore.
Yes, it is. It's like a modern day Parkinson, and he's a very bright guy. I particularly recommend the episodes with Professor Brian Cox, and Russell Brand, and anyone you can think of.
Well, yesterday I just scoured back. You sent me one with Edward Snowden, the whistleblower, which I enjoyed and haven't finished yet because it's also very long. And Edward Snowden is quite a sort of he's a mechanic, so he gives you absolutely chapter and verse of every single detail. Far too much information, really, but still interesting to watch people thinking while they form sentences to be coherent in an interview, I think.
Yeah. And if you really can't face the longer versions, I think he's got a second channel called Powerful JRE, or Joe Rogan. Yeah, Powerful JRE, Joe Rogan Experience. And he just basically lifts some highlights out of each interview.
Oh, that's good. It must be a full-time job. He must have helpers as well, because Could you, just a second reminder, to send me the link to that one, the 4-way, because I think that might be a good intro to people if they've not heard of it before.
I could do that easily because I sent it to Nelson yesterday.
You're a star. Thank you.
Okay. Right, that's us done, isn't it?
That's us done. Yes, I'll see you next week.
All right then.
Okay. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.